Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It is the first week of January here. I just got myself a little project here. So this forage blower is from a neighbor and tractor. This forage blower had a number of things wrong with it, or does have a number of things wrong with it. So starting off, I just fixed the first thing. It had a bungee strap that used to hold this lever here up to run the auger. We just fixed that. That is all just in that adjustment there. We got that straightened out for him. The other thing is this here is a little rotted out. If he said if I can weld that, I can go for it. We're gonna rebuild this blower as well with a new set of band and paddles for him. They aren't horrible, but they could use some improvement. New band and paddles just allows us to get everything square again. You can see the edges of these paddles will get rounded over time. We put all new band on and all new paddles on. Everything's balanced. It runs really smoothly. So that's what we're going to do there. There are some holes up in this part of the blower here. We're going to go ahead and just weld those up for him. That's what he wanted. We're going to just put a plate in there and weld that. It does have some hindrance with the feed blowing up, but the majority of the feed will have already gone up, so very little will go around. So that is an adjustment that we can play with. This tractor here, I still haven't 100% figured out what we're going to do, but this door doesn't actually latch. So the latch works. You can see that. I can push it, make it activate, and it unlatches, but the door does not push square and shut anymore. Just from some quick observations, there's a larger gap from the top to the bottom. I'm wondering if there's some wear in those pins, if we can maybe get the door to creep out a little more and get that solved. We will see what we can do there. But we're just going to go over this thing for him and get everything looked after. It is a lot of just little stuff like this. That band and paddles is the majority of the job. But then he should be good to go. This blower, I know the farm it came off before it went to this one. Came from the same farm that our other blower came off of, or my blower came off of. This one was his high moisture corn unit. It still works great, just needs a little bit of TLC. All right, it is the following day here now. I have this door so that it latches. You can see that it's a pretty firm shut. What I did notice is that this door is supposed to stay open, and it does not do that. That is because there's a little pin in here, and that pin is broken. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make something so that this door can run in this slider here like it should, so that it can stay open. So something little handy like that, and then the door can stay open and it won't flop shut all the time. All right, an hour has gone by. So I started by trying to get this piece off here and out. I ended up taking it apart on this side. This pin is pretty stuck in there. So I have kind of walk you through my thought process. This pin, it's a pin with a bushing that goes through the metal here. From what I can tell, you can no longer buy this pin and bushing. So I've made my own little pin with some bushings. This is just a plain old nut and bolt that I can weld to the bottom here. And then it'll be able to slide in the groove. It'll keep the door latched, all that fun stuff. So that's what I built. It really didn't take that long to build it. Little neat fabrication thing here. So we'll go ahead and weld that on. I'm gonna go home and grab lunch, but I'll weld that on. I've already disconnected the batteries on both sides of the tractor. And then that should allow that to just go on its way with very few issues. So that'll be nice. I may end up only needing one of the nuts, but I wanted to have two ready just in case. There we go. Got this little nut on here acting as the bushing, and the little piece of threads. You can see with a little bit of work, it will run and it'll slide in the track. I was envisioning something slightly different, but it seems to work really well. I'm gonna get this bolted back on here. I was hoping that the nut would spin a little more on the shaft. Maybe it will if I put a bit of oil on it. But I'm hoping that will allow the door to hold itself open, and then it'll no longer get stuck. Every now and again it was getting stuck while I was trying to shut it. Just like that, the door will stay open again. It won't go too far. It's not gonna hit this light all the time, not gonna hit the tire. Door can stay open, and the door can shut. It's still a good slam to shut it, I find, but the majority of these Soundguard tractors are. But that is a nice little touch, that the door shuts and that it stays open. I'm gonna go ahead now and reconnect all the batteries on this tractor, as I am done with that. Maybe actually I'll do the little bit of welding that I need to do on the blower while they are still disconnected. Just as the blower is actually hooked to the tractor right now. So for this blower back here, you can see this little plate by the door is busted. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut a piece of metal out of some scrap iron I got laying around, and I will weld something in there. Just tidy things up a little bit. Keep this platform from wiggling around a bit. So that should just help things. Other than that, I don't really see too much else that is off with this blower. Like I said yesterday, got that handle fixed. The rest of the stuff is what it is, and then we will dig our way into this repair. And that is one more thing fixed. I just welded a little plate in there, 1.25 inches long, about 2 inches wide. Just welded in there, threw the original bolt back in, and then I also added a second bolt. All right. Yesterday I went ahead and I pulled all of the paddles off. I finished that job. So that is why it's looking a little bit different in here. And then my dad was in town anyways yesterday. He picked up some hardware for me. You're looking at about $130 of hardware right here. Just because we're running these locking nuts, the thread on the end. There's a technical name for them. I learned it in school, but I don't remember. So all new hardware, just because it's better. The bolts that were on here were not actually thread locking. Some of them were. The ones on the small paddles were, but these ones were not. From the factory, they are supposed to be. At some point along the line, someone has done this job before rebuilding this blower. You can tell that. Now I'm doing it again. So we're just upgrading all the hardware to the right stuff. That way the nuts will never back off with these little thread lockers. So that is what we are up to today. We're now going to start putting things back together. We're going to set all the paddles on. Then when we get the band on, we'll have to start playing with the adjustment. These new paddles here, you can't, obviously you guys can't feel the weight. I could grab a scale and weigh them. They're much heavier than the other paddles. You can see as well, they have a nice square edge to them versus the other pedals. They start to, over time, get a little rounded. These ones are not the worst that I have seen. All right, I have all of the bolts put in. The paddles are still loose, so they can adjust, so they can pull in and out. So none of the bolts are torqued down yet. And I've started. So this is the piece here that has all of the holes in it. I've gone ahead and I've cut all of these little plates that'll fit over the holes. I'm gonna slide them in behind, like so, and then we'll fill the front of this with weld and grind it flat. I'm hoping that works pretty good. There you have it. Got this all welded up. The plate needs to slide over the top for clearance after the band does. On the underside, I didn't want a paddle on the return to hit it, even though it's not making clearance. So that was what I've done. This took a decent amount of time to do, an hour and a half between cutting all of the little pieces and then welding and grinding. But that is how that went. So I'm gonna park this project here. For now, I'm gonna go grab lunch. I don't know if I'll get back to it after lunch, as it is getting to be the later portion of the afternoon. Alright everybody, it is the next day. It's very snowy outside today and cold. You can see all that snow. Very snowy and cold out, but it's alright here in the shop. A couple degrees above freezing, but it is quite a bit below freezing out there. So I got this little magnetic GoPro mount for Christmas. I'm gonna try and set it up so that I can show you guys something. So bear with me here. So when you set these paddles, I have them all set now. You take some change. This is Canadian money. So this is what a Canadian nickel looks like. This is 5 cents. Your nickel, you should be able to run along the groove here and it not fall through. Your dime, this is what a dime looks like in Canada. You should be able to have it slip through. Now, in a certain spot here and there, the dime won't fall through, but you can see the dime will fall through here. This band is painted on the inside and as the paint wears off, paint isn't really that thick, but what I will show you, or as you would know, is when you take the paint off something, there is enough there to catch your fingernail on. So I try and set these blowers that has the paint wears. This gap's a little bigger here, or one of the gaps is a little bigger on the paddles. I try and set these blowers that as the paint wears, the gap stays about where it should be. So there's the odd bolt left yet to tighten, but they're all set. So I'm going to tighten up the last couple bolts, clear all my stuff off the blower, and we're going to run it. When I spin this blower over by hand, it's the wrong way, I don't hear any ticking. If I were to hear ticking, I'd know that something is up. But I do not hear ticking. So, as far as I can tell, and as far as I've measured, everything is the way it should be. I just like to test run them after they're all tight to make sure that nothing is going to be rubbing. You'd hate to send this blower back, they start filling silo in the spring and it's ticking away. I'm gonna tighten these last 2 bolts on this paddle here. The impact, I've just been snugging them as tight as they go. They're 5/8 bolts with the thread lockers on them. I have had trouble before on a different blower getting them tight enough, so now I just really give them with the impact. I don't think you would be able to break one of these bolts with the impact. They got quite a bit of thread and thickness to them. They're about as thick as a finger, and I got pretty large hands, so climb in this thing. I have not sat in this tractor yet. Let's give it a minute to warm up. It's pretty warm in the shop here actually, but these older tractors are pretty cold-blooded, I find. My grandfather used to have a 2950 Deere. That one was a 4-wheel drive. The PTOs on these tractors is right here. So, push it up. See, the PTO is on. Give her some RPMs and I gotta take a look. Sounds like it's running good. I'm gonna rev it up all the way. Seems to be good. I should have climbed in here sooner. I noticed that he has a broken window latch and I could have fixed that for him. I don't see it laying here in the cab. But if I did see it, we could have had all that stuff fixed. Anyway, I guess if he's happy with that. But there we go. The blower seems to be running good. I'm gonna go again and tighten all the paddles one more time. Turn it over by hand in case there's anything I didn't hear. But it seems to be working just fine.